One repair shop already tried to fix this vibrant blue PSP. They just had to replace this screen and they somehow botched it and now it won't even turn on. So I bought this from a viewer for $80. Let's see if I can fix it. It's always nice when the device comes along with a bag full of parts. At least it has the screws. So in order to figure out what's going on with this, we'll just set this aside. This looks like the old screen. Let's take a look at that real quick just so we know if it's reusable. I doubt it is because it's probably broken, but ribbon cables actually look pretty good, so it's probably broken, but it's always nice to know. Oh yeah, we definitely have a problem. It's all bent right here. It's nice to know that there's, you know, a good working screen, but that one definitely is not. Okay, the battery cover, actually this battery cover is nice because the two tabs have not been broken off, so that's good. And then we've got the screws for the back, so that's good. I think maybe that's all the screws, because there should be 2 screws on the top, 1 on the bottom, and 1, 2, I think 4 screws total. 3, 4, yeah. Okay, so it looks like we have everything we need there. Let's just try and turn this thing on and see what happens. Yeah, we just get nothing. Okay. And since this thing's already apart, we can already start taking this off. This top front piece. I initially don't see any issues there. Now, when the viewer that sold this to me emailed me, he said that the repair shop messed up the backlight. So that's what we got to check. But also, this just doesn't, something about this doesn't look right either. We'll get to that once we start putting it all back together. I'm going to start by grabbing my trusty spudger that I use as a pry tool from my iFixit toolkit. We'll also be needing some of these tools in a minute, but let's see what we need to do to pry this piece off right here. Got that. Yeah, this microphone just is not in there correctly. I don't remember how it goes, but it doesn't go like that. At least I think. It's been a while since I worked on one of these. Okay, that's off. Now we can flip the screen up. Okay, what do we have here? So this piece we need to move out of here. Actually, I'm not even sure where that goes. I don't know that I've even seen that on a PSP before. All right, so looking at the board here, and initially I don't see anything wrong there. We could have a problem over here on the power board. Actually, this ribbon cable is not in there all the way. Let's check that out. There's no way this is the only problem. I'm going to actually be very annoyed if it is, because it's going to be a short, not a full video. Come on. It doesn't? I don't know. I guess it's maybe going in there all the way. That looks better anyway. One thing I want to do also is check the voltage on this battery and see if it's even good. And we have 0 volts. 0 volts on the battery, so obviously it's definitely not going to start up without any voltage on the battery, so we either need to get another battery or charge this one up. So let's do that now and then just see what happens with a good battery. I was able to scrounge up this third-party battery pack. Oh, we got 3.7 volts there. Okay, so let's put that one in and see if this thing starts up. I don't think it will, and honestly I hope it doesn't, because I want to make a video about this. What? Okay, we got a green light there. The screen is definitely not coming on. Well, something's funky about this ribbon cable right here. That doesn't look right. That's because it's not even... What? Okay, let's turn this thing off. Get the battery out. That doesn't look right. Man, I'm losing parts all over here. Okay. Maybe that's right. So that's the original cable. No, see, that. I feel like that's not right. That's a locking tab. Something is funky about that. I guess maybe it's just a longer one. Let's also take this cable off, just so we can have a look at this new screen they got here. Okay. Now when I bought this, the seller also said that the repair shop tried to replace a fuse. I don't see any work that has been done on this board so far. This ribbon cable isn't even for the screen. That's for the microphone over here. So as weird as that looks, I think that's maybe normal. Guess we'll plug that back in. Just looks funky. Okay, that one's good. All right, and screen ribbon cable looks okay. Yep, both of those ribbon cables look fine. So it's making me wonder if this is maybe just a faulty screen or something, but let's do a little more checking around first. I'm gonna remove this black piece right here so we can see the board a little bit better down here. These little shoulder buttons were always tricky to me when I was first learning how to work on them, but now I just remove them. They're adhesive, so they stick and unstick just fine. Although it looks like it was not stuck on here very well. And of course, after I say that, the adhesive kind of comes up a little bit. That shouldn't be a problem though. Okay. Oh, this just lifts right up. Good. And there we go. Looks like maybe they forgot to plug something in here. Is that where? I'm not totally sure actually. I think something's supposed to plug in there and I think it's stuck under the board here. Not totally sure, but we'll see in a minute. I think we need to remove this board and just have a look at it and just see if there's any damage at all on it. And then we can move on from there. So got to get all the ribbon cables removed. The battery's already out, so we don't have to worry about damaging anything as far as touching 2 points with our tweezers or anything like that. Okay, there's that. Now this one. There we go. Okay. I don't remember this trim piece having to be removed, but it goes over that screw hole right there, so clearly it does. Okay. Then it looks like we're almost ready to come out. we go. And there we go. Yep, this ribbon cable right here for the joystick was down under the board. All right, let's have a look at this board and see what's going on with it. There is definitely something going on down here. Let's take a look under the microscope. Okay, and this is the area we need to look at. You can see all the fresh flux over here, or fresh dried flux. Not sure if there's supposed to be a component right here. We can look at that in a minute here. We've got a bunch of the flux scraped off. Just need to clean this up a little bit, then we can have a look at what's going on down here. Just going to be using some isopropyl alcohol and a toothbrush. Just clean this area up. There we go. Now it looks like we've got two fuses here. One F4101 0.5 amps. I'm guessing that is what used to be right here, and it looks like they've just tried to bridge that. Then we've got F2001 1 amp right here, marked LB. So the only other option I see is maybe if there is supposed to be one here, but I don't think there is. I think this is where it would have been. So the nice thing is we can just use our multimeter in resistance mode and just do a little bit of testing. So we'll check from here over to this pad. Oh. Okay, it looks like we do have continuity. We didn't before. Let's check this one. Okay, this one is good. Okay, that's interesting. I was checking it a little bit before I started filming, and there was no continuity across from this plane right here over to this one right here, but now it seems like there is. So sometimes my leads can get dirty and that can cause it, or sometimes, like if you see, this is a very dry solder joint, so it's just not gonna work. With a dry solder joint like this, that can cause an intermittent connection or no connection at all between the solder and the pad. So the first thing I'm gonna do is replace this with an actual fuse, and then we can recheck and see if we have power on this PSP. So this is the closest fuse I could find. It is a 1 amp fuse, and since the other fuse is a 0.5 amp fuse, it's not a good idea to replace this fuse with the other one. But since this is really all I have, I don't really have a choice. You should never replace a fuse that's rated higher than the fuse that you're replacing. So while this isn't a good practice, I'm still gonna do it to see if we can get this board working. So since this fuse is so close to this port, I'm actually gonna remove the port first, and then I'll remove the fuse. If I just come over with my hot air and blast this fuse with hot air, it's gonna melt all this plastic, and I may wanna use this port on a different broken device. So next I'm gonna put some flux on the mounting pins. Then I'm gonna come through and blast it with hot air until the solder melts. Then we'll be able to pull that port off. Then we'll be able to get the fuse off. And that didn't work too well. I melted the inside of the port. So my goal there was definitely not met. And now some more flux here. We're going to remove this big blob of solder. Just going to come in with my large soldering iron. Suck that up just like that. There we go. And now each of these pads has some fresh solder on it. So when I come in to solder on the new fuse, it should solder right on pretty easily. Okay, and there we go. Now we'll just clean this area up a bit. Now I do want to test just to make sure that there is continuity between those points. I'm assuming there is, but I didn't actually check that fuse before I installed it, so it is possible I just installed a bad fuse. That would be unfortunate. So let's just go from right here, this point, over to this point. There we go. And the reason I do that is because that checks this whole path from here over to here, and that shows that both of these fuses are good. In fact, I should be able to go from here all the way to here. Yep. So all of those are good now. Now we'll get this board installed back into the PSP enough to test, and we'll see if that'll work now. But before we do that, let's check all the other fuses on the board just to make sure we don't have any problems. That fuse is good. And that fuse is good. Let's see if we got any more on here. And I don't see any. These ones that say 000, those are usually 0 resistance. They're not like technically fuses, but they basically are. No problems there. Okay, I think, oh, we got another fuse over here on the other side. Right there. Got an LB right there. Good. Any more? Yep. Got another one. Right there. There's a 2.5 amp fuse. Okay, we're good. Had to get a good connection there with my meter. At first it just didn't show anything at all. Okay, now we can get this installed into the case, get that screen installed, and we'll see what happens. And just inspecting these ribbon cables, this ribbon cable here comes from the power board, the power button board. And I can't tell, it looks, I don't know, a little iffy maybe. Yeah, it's not dirty. Okay, that actually looks decent. I was a little worried there for a minute, but I think it's probably fine. I don't think it's as common on these later models of PSP, but on some of the earlier models, it wasn't that uncommon for these to go bad, but I think we're probably good here. Okay, this is how we go. Takes a while to remind me how these things go in here sometimes. Oh, that ribbon cable's a pain. Come here. Okay, good. Let's just get this board in first. I'm sure we won't forget about that cable, right? There we go. Okay, that cable, and this cable. I think that's everything. Now just got to get these cables all connected and get the screen on. Then we'll see if it'll work. I feel like also this cable must go under this or something. It just seems funky. Eh, maybe not, I don't know. Seems a little weird. All right, let's just plug it in as is. We'll see what'll happen here. I really hope this fixes this one. This is such a cool PSP. As far as I know, this blue color, they only had in Japan. I could be wrong on that, but I think it might be a Japan-only color. So it's kind of cool that I got my hands on this one. I did overpay for it a little bit probably. I paid $80 for it, but makes a good repair story, a good challenge, so it's hard for me to turn those down. Got it. Now I think all I really need is just to put the screen on here now. I don't think we need all that other stuff for it to just start up, so let's give it a try. Okay, backlight is in. Now LCD cable. Oh, there we go. That was easy. Ah! Ah, no, that's not good. This just turned into a longer video. Oh, man. So we got to fix this connector if we can. And to do that, I'm going to have to get back under the microscope. Okay, so what we got to do is try and get this back installed and get this clip installed onto that side, which can be pretty difficult without ruining it. This is very fragile plastic. So let's see if we can do it. The plastic's fragile, and then also those little pins are fragile as well. They've all got to work together in order for this to work. Okay, let's try. Maybe we, what a bummer. Okay, so now we have to replace this entire connector. Let's see if I've got one around here somewhere. I think maybe I do. Yeah, it looks like it. Okay, so what I'm gonna have to do now is remove this board, heat the underside of this to remove this connector, and then remove this connector from this board and install it onto this one. Now, even though I am sort of taking the blame for this whole thing, there's a good chance that this thing was broken or weakened from the previous repair attempt, so it's not like it's likely all my fault, but I definitely could have been a little more careful there. This little pin here probably is at least broken a little bit, and then this middle piece probably was weakened. But like I said, I should have been more careful too. That's enough talking about it though. Let's just get it replaced. As you probably noticed, that connector I removed was not the right connector for this board. Luckily, I did have another board that had the right connector, so we've got the right one here. So I'm gonna add some flux to these pads right here, and then I'm going to line up this new connector, and then I'm gonna solder on all these small pins over here, solder on the mounting pads on the board to the mounting pins on the connector, and then we should be ready to test it. And I'm using my pick to just apply a little bit of flux. We don't need a lot on there right at the moment. This will help the connector stick right here, and then it will also help the solder flow when it's time to solder these on. Now I'll come in and line up my connector. It's important that the connector is lined up as perfectly as we can get it, because that's going to make all the soldering easier. If it's not lined up, it's just going to be really hard to get everything soldered on correctly. And sometimes what happens with these is I get it kind of like lined up where I need it, and then I come in with my iron and bump it or something like that. That's totally normal. Just have to come out and reline everything up. Not a big deal. Okay, it's almost there. And sometimes it's not quite perfect when we're first lining it up, so I'll come in and tack one of these pins down, and then I'll line up the other side. So I might have to do that here, we'll see. Now I move that locking tab closed, so then I don't damage it when I'm pushing down on these pins or down on the connector. Okay, so this is all soldered on back on. Each of these joints looks really good and it's nice and solid. So now we're finally back to where I was before I broke this locking tab. I still feel like maybe it was like loose or broken or something already. I usually don't make those kind of mistakes, but man, for some reason, I obviously did on this one. Either way, it's all fixed now. Let's get back to reassembling this PSP. So now, if I remember right, I think I was working on putting the screen in. I don't even remember, it's been so long since I was actually doing this part. Let's see if we can lock this screen in without breaking this ribbon cable again. Or the connector. Okay, that one's installed. Now we can go right here. Get in there. Okay, flip down. There we go. Got it. Whew, glad that part's done. So the screen's in. I don't think I'm forgetting anything except for, I am forgetting something. This guy right here. Oh, and the microphone. So this has to go under here, right over here somewhere. There we go. You need to make sure not to break any other ribbon cables. Don't want that to happen for sure. Okay, that one's in. Now this guy right here is going to be a pain to get in there. Wonder. So let's start from here. This needs to go over here like this, I believe. Down there somewhere like that. Yep. There we go. Okay, I think that is all the ribbon cables. Now the screen can fold down just like that. And this guy can also fold down. Just like that. All right, and then these guys, I don't even remember how these things go. Oh, here we go. There we go. And now with all that stuff on, we can prep the screen protector, and then get this part on. So the first thing I'm going to do is clean out this analog stick cutout right here. That's pretty grimy. Got a bunch of stuff down here. Not doing a full clean. This isn't like, you know, one of our restore-ish videos or anything, but just want to get a bunch of the gunk out. This really isn't too dirty overall, so can't really warrant a full cleaning video on it, but maybe one of these days we'll get a PSP that'll work good for that. Okay, with that all cleaned out, let's get down to the screen protector. I'm going to start by blowing it off with some canned air. I'll take a microfiber cloth and get all this these loose pieces up. This is only going to look so good because this screen protector is pretty scratched. But we want to make it look as good as we can with what we have to work with here. And you got to make sure and wipe off the front too so you know what's on the front and what's on the back. That's pretty good. I don't think we're going to get it any better. Okay, and then the screen is actually pretty clean. So I'm just going to blow it off. Okay. Now we're ready to install the front shell onto this PSP. And we'll be able to start it up. I mean, hopefully. And here we go. Nope. Something going on over here. I think this microphone probably is not fitting in where it should. So, let's remove it from there. Put it over this guy. There we go. Now let's try this. That does not want to fit over this right here. Why not? Oh, that's because this is over that little piece down there. It needs to be under it. Okay. So let's fix that. There we go. Put it back down. All right, and there we go. Actually, I'm glad that happened because there is a screw that goes down in there. So let's put that screw in. There we go. See if that fits down there. Oh, so much better. Okay, and last screw. There we go. Okay, pretty good. Buttons all seem to work fine. Give this back shell a bit of a clean. These really are just beautiful consoles, or beautiful handhelds, I guess, technically. Battery. Can't clean everything else and not get this spot off right here. Definitely not perfect, but pretty good. Look at how nice that looks. But is it going to start up? Let's find out. Okay, here we go. I'm a little nervous. That was a lot of work. Let's see what happens. Green light, good news. Black screen, come on. Oh, there we go. And after all of that work, this PSP is working and we were able to save another one. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope you have a good one.